Hi, Anti-Society! Welcome back to the Antisocial Planet, and today we are checking out episode 241 of Bleach. And the last episode, we had kind of a shakeup in what was going on, with Byakuya finally reappearing after being gone for quite a while, and showing that he is siding more with the Zanpakuto and what their beliefs are. I feel like that's an interesting way to shift the narrative of the conflict. I feel like up to this point, a lot of it at the beginning was like enemies against Soul Reapers, and then it became more complex as Soul Reapers started to interact with their Zanpakuto and figure out what was really motivating this conflict, specifically between them and their Zanpakuto, and that purpose that is driving both sides of this conflict. And now we're having Byakuya who says maybe the Zanpakuto like have a point, and we haven't fully explored his stance very much because he's not much of a talker anyway, but I feel like we also wanted to end off the episode in a bit of a cliffhanger, right? To have that suspense of thinking that maybe Byakuya is like siding with the enemy and all that kind of thing. So hopefully in the upcoming episodes we'll get to dig a little bit more into that. I know that Byakuya before has been someone that we saw kind of as like the enemy, you know, all the way back in like Soul Society arc, and then has shifted over time once you learn more about him. So I am very interested to learn more about why he is deciding to stand on the side of these Zanpakuto and what his stance is on the whole thing. So maybe we'll see some of that. Maybe they'll hold us in suspense for a little while. I don't know, but the more and more I find out about the Zanpakuto like characters in this, the more interested I am. I feel like there's so many different things motivating them that it's really fascinating to me to see why some Zanpakuto are like more malicious towards their Soul Reapers than others. So let's check out this episode and maybe we'll get some more mysteries solved. In 3, 2, 1, go. I think it's interesting too, the idea of like some Zanpakuto, like I was saying, are more malicious towards their Soul Reapers than others. I think is interesting when you take into account that the Zanpakuto is kind of a personification of the Soul Reaper that they're attached, like they're connected with. So is there more of a connection between those of like people who are maybe more of a like warrior by, I don't know, heart by soul than some of the others? Um, or if it's, I don't know. I don't know if we'll get an answer to that question. It's just something that I find, you know, an interesting topic to kind of deconstruct. Because I'm sure that there's some reason behind that. I was gonna say there's definitely some reason behind that, but it's also filler. So it's not like it's like if it was like fully Kubo, then I'd be like, absolutely, there's a reason for this, and I'm not digging too deep. But with filler, I don't know. I know that some of it isn't filler, some of it's like canon, but still. Like, why is Hizagi's Zanpakuto so crazy? I mean, it's also like probably my favorite character design out of the Zanpakuto, and I find it really interesting the dynamic between Hisagi and his Zanpakuto. We're gonna have to go back to that, right? Because we didn't finish up that conflict. But then you have something like Toshida's, where like Toshida's Zanpakuto like did not want to fight him. I wasn't really interested in that. So I don't know. Oh, I you see the damage, that like aerial view. I agree. A little bitter about that one. I like how in that list of surprises he wasn't like, and our Zanpakutos became like their own people. Like, that wasn't the most surprising thing that's happened. Oh? Oof. So it has to be the Soul Reaper going up against their own Zanpakuto. Oh, I like that he volunteered. Oof. I'm sure there's a reason though. Like I'm with Renji on that one. Like there's gotta be something going on with why he's choosing that side. Because we all know that Byakuya's not beyond doing something that seems very drastic and is kind of like the hard decision to make in order to like fit with his moral code. And that doesn't mean that he's necessarily doing a bad thing on like a grand scale, but he is like he doesn't need to like follow what other people are doing and have that be like the validation of him like following everyone else, right? Yes, he did. I really do think it's a like free will thing, maybe. Like that the Zanpakuto should be able to choose if they stay with their Soul Reaper or not. So everyone's saying like betrayal, but I'm not sure if ooh, I'm not sure if that's how Byakuya sees it. Like I don't know if he considers this a betrayal. Yeah, that seems a little bit intense. Like why are we just sacrificing someone? Being surrounded by a bunch of Zanpakutos seems like a bad situation to be in. Does he know that Rukia severed the connection between them. He also, like, I guess just has to try, right? Does that prove enough? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out exactly because the only thing I can think of is for his motivation is free will of like if kind of like Rukia's thought of like if the Zanpakuto see themselves as prisoners and want to be free of their soul reapers, then they should be. He lost his scarf though. Oof. I don't know if I believe it's actually real. Well, because one, I know that Rukia gets her Zanpakuto back, so the suspense is kind of gone. Like I know that whatever happens here isn't permanent. And he keeps saying pride too. I wonder if there's significance to him pointing out pride specifically. I just feel like he knows something we don't. He's not gonna like that. Oh, I feel like we shouldn't just agree to do things for, spooky people. Look, there has to be something though, right? Because like Byakuya was gone for a while, so what was he doing between when we saw him during the initial attack and then now when he's first joined with Muramasa? Because Muramasa didn't know that until recently. So what was happening in that block of time? Oh, should like turn a light on though. Like reading by moonlight is not the best. Is that what we were asked about? Were we asked to attack this specific squad? Or does it have something to do with Byakuya? There's also lots of shots of Byakuya turned away, where he has his back to people, which I think is possibly symbolic of something. He's still trying to keep her out of it, though. Like, he's trying to make sure that Byakuya doesn't get involved in whatever's going on. See, at that point, he turns around. Oh, we got backup. Interesting that that's still the Thor is still like personified. Oof. I feel like talking might help in this, though. You know? Maybe not between the Zanpakuto, but I feel like if Byakuya was talking more, that would be helpful. Hmm. Fair point, though. Denji's not trying to actually beat him in a fight, he just has to capture him. So it's a slightly different uh stakes to the fight. I love that trade-off though of the sword between the two of them. I also love how like that even though they're chained together, they use that really well to their advantage. Like it isn't a hindrance to their fighting style. Just destroying more buildings. Like, look, there's already a bunch of damage. I can't tell if that was intentional on Neji's part because we know that he's not like the best. Um, I don't know if he actually messed up that as like a smokescreen or if it was a mistake that he just took advantage of. Which I feel like is like a lot of things with Neji. I'm like, I don't know if that was strategic or he made a mistake and he just figured out a way to like stick the landing anyway. Ooh, we're having a music change, which makes me think that something serious is happening. Why are we going inside? The property damage. It does narrow where he can go, though. I guess it's harder for dodging. Except that now we've just forgotten that the hallway is there so that the giant snake can fit in. I got a reaction. Oh, guys, that whole building now. I hope there was nobody in there. Well, he did just get thrown off of a roof, so he's probably not okay. See, he won't look at Arikia. Like, the one time he turned around was so that he could look at Renji, but he didn't look at Arikia, which I think is interesting. This might be the real test. Because if a bunch of the Zanpakuto are gonna team up on them, that might be more to, like, break through or whatever Byakuya is currently working on. Oh, hey! Look who decided to show up. I've seen everybody showing up. There's definitely some bitterness from Ichigo's side, which I guess I understand if it's like he thinks that Byakuya is like turning against like him specifically. Like I'm sure he does not appreciate having someone pull a sword on him in any way, especially when he considers them as like I don't know, is friend the right word for what Ichigo and Byakuya have? Acquaintanceship? Colleagues? They're kind of like work colleagues more than anything else. Um, but definitely like could trust each other, right? Like Ichigo definitely would have trusted Byakuya if they had to fight together. And then to have him turn on Ichigo, I think is where a lot of the bitterness is coming from, especially since it's not just any Soul Reaper. It's not just any captain. It's Rukia's brother. So, you know, that has like a different level of betrayal from Ichigo's side of things. But I also wonder if it's betrayal from Byakuya's side of things, because everyone else is using the word betrayal for what he's doing, but he's not. I wonder if maybe, does it have something to do with Yama then? Because he's also gone. Did he ask Byakuya to do something for him, and maybe that's part of it? Hmm. I just feel like there are lots of layers. I kind of love that though. Where it's like him making things for him. Yeah. He's like making up his room. I feel like that didn't answer any of my questions about Byakuya. I feel like I just came away with like more questions because he's like pushing harder and harder into like being part of Munamasa's like group. So I think that that's adding to the confusion. I know that that's like also like a plot device for this as well, because the betrayal is like part of changing up the dynamics of the Soul Reapers and things like that. And also it kind of gives us a like mini boss in the season before we get to like the Muramasa conflict of it all. But I do wonder what the actual motivation is. And I think that there's some interesting things there where it does show Byakuya wanting to make sure that Rukia isn't part of whatever is going on. He keeps trying to tell her to stay out of it. And I think that that shows that he's a lot more worried about her than maybe he seems. He's also keeping his back to her and also to her Zanpakuto, where he had his back turned a lot of the time too. So there's this feeling of like not wanting to look Rukia in the eye while he's doing all of this, which is different from with Renji, where he like turned around to confront Renji. So I think that there is something there where he doesn't know how to face Rukia with what he's doing, but he also needs to do it. And I just don't know what the reason is for why he needs to do it. He keeps saying because of his pride, but I wonder what that means. Like, what does pride mean to him? Is it because of something specific from like a moral standpoint? Is it because of Rukia? Like, is she his pride and therefore he is doing something that he believes is protecting her and we just don't know all the details? Because like I said, there's a huge chunk of time there, at least probably not like relative in world, but given like number of episodes where we didn't see him and we didn't know what he was doing. So maybe I'm assuming something happened in that time frame that explains why Byakuya was gone for a long time, and also why he came back and decided that he was going to like try and win the trust of Muramasa. We just don't know what it is yet, but I feel like it either has to do something with Yama and there's like some reason for why they're both missing, and maybe Byakuya was given like specific orders of what to do. And I think that it has something to do with protecting Rukia. I think that's the core of like why he's doing what he's doing. I just don't know all of like the reasoning behind like how he's justifying this and like why this is the correct path to take. But we'll have to wait and see. It's definitely different going through the filler arcs. It's weird to me because I'm used to maybe like a faster pace in the plot, and I think that maybe some of that is because I'm coming off of watching the Thousand Year Blood War, which was just like super rapid fire with stuff that was going on. And also the fights are different. They feel different, which is like odd to me because usually I'm like super into the fights in Bleach and there's all these different layers to it, but in this one it doesn't have the same like weight behind what's going on. Maybe part of that too is that it's filler, so I know that what happens later there isn't as many stakes, right? Like Rukia's Sanbakuto getting destroyed, that doesn't hit me in the same way because I know that she gets it back. Right? Like I know that she's gonna have her Sanbakuto later, so it doesn't have the same weight to like the consequences of that, and it doesn't have the same weight with the rest of it in terms of like consequences of what's going on, because I know everything has to go back into the canon in order for things to make sense, right? Like Byakuya is gonna end up being a good person because he's with Soul Society later. There is like a different feeling to this arc, but I still like going through like the Zanpakuto. Maybe that's kind of it, where like the last couple of episodes haven't been as much about like the Zanpakutos themselves, which are like I feel like the most interesting part of this arc, because you can do more with them, because you don't have to like fit back into the constraints of like this is where the character is at when they get back into the canon, because the Zanpakuto like aren't personified in the rest of it. So you can play a lot more with who they are and how they're interacting with the story. I don't know. I don't know at this point, but you can click this playlist to go and see my previous reactions, or you can subscribe so you know next time I post a Bleach reaction, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!